Welcome to another episode of Medicine Mondays. I am yours truly, Dr. Pierre, favorite board certified internist, host of Medicine Mondays, part of the Empower Yourself for Better Health series, as well as our other YouTube channel, Dr. Pierre's Health Checks. And we have a special episode for you, with a special guest who I'm excited to come on, talk about more importantly, what about the pandemic and more importantly, eating, right? Two of the most important things, especially right now, what's going on. And I'm excited to have Dr. May on. And again, she is not only a board certified family physician, she's a best-selling author of not one, but soon to be 2 books that's coming up. We're gonna get into some of her business about that for sure. But she's gonna talk to us about, again, what do we need to do? What do we need to look for when it comes to kind of the eating ways, and hopefully what to get out of it, right? Kind of get on the outside of it, right? I think a lot of you guys have talked about, I've seen this term pandemic pounds, right? Like, so how do we help get some of these pandemic pounds off of us? Dr. May, first of all, thank you for joining this week's episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Barry. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
So, I mean, if you can just give a quick introduction on who you are, especially this, even though your description will be all, your bio will be in the description, people just, they do what they do, that which is okay, right? They like to hear from the guest specifically, say like, who was this guest that Dr. Pierre is like fawning over? Like, who is Dr. May?
Well, thank you. Yes, so I am Dr. Monique. I am a board certified family physician, as you said, and I am known around social media as the physician in the kitchen. I help busy households enjoy healthy eating without impacting their hectic schedules through my online cooking classes. And as you mentioned, my Amazon best-selling book, Meal Masters, Your Simple Guide to Modern Day Meal Planning, and my soon-to-be released cookbook called Doc Fix My Plate, the Physician in the Kitchen's Prescriptions for Your Healthy Plate Makeover.
What's interesting, and I always, especially when I get guests on, right, and obviously then again they're doing the medicine thing, but they're kind of doing a little bit extra. I always ask, what was that fork in the road that said, you know what, like I want to kind of go in this direction that isn't the traditional see a patient in the office, take care of them, take care of families. Like, what kind of made you go down this kind of fork in the road as far as being the physician in the kitchen?
Well, it's so funny you asked that. It's really, it's hard to put my finger on one thing, but I think I would say that probably the real push or the impetus was I was in a position, I had worked as a medical director for 5 years in a clinic, and I got to the point where I realized these people don't value me. They are working me, they don't value me. And I was getting to that point where I wasn't enjoying what I did anymore. And so it just so happened that an administrative position came open. And then along that time, I met Dr. Dre Birch, who you know very well, our mutual business coach, Dr. Dre. And, he really showed me the light as far as monetizing my medical degree in non-clinical ways. And so being in this non-clinical position as an administrator, I work in more of an admin role now, really freed me up, really gave me the time to pursue this other interest. And it really, for me, is just the perfect combination of my 2 passions, which is really educating. As a physician, we're educators, we're advocates for our patients. So it lets me do that. But instead of kind of one-on-one in the exam room, I'm now doing it on a larger platform with social media and platforms like this, and through my books and other things. And it also lets me show off my skills or, enjoy or share what I know about cooking. And I know we only got an hour, so I'm really, you're gonna have to reel me in. I don't want to go over my time because I can talk all night, but it's just a great way for me to really step into my passion, kind of walk in my purpose and really change lives.
Now, has cooking always been like just kind of like a side passion for you while doing the medicine thing, or is that something you kind of picked along the way? And the reason why I ask that is I tell people all the time, in medicine, especially at least during and I'll talk about my training during school, like we probably got like 2 weeks of just the nutrition education in general, and the rest was just medicine stuff, but just really 2 weeks of a focus on nutrition. So I'm always really keen when my docs say, you know what, like I'm gonna bring nutrition into this medicine thing, because like it almost goes hand in hand.
Oh, definitely. And you probably got about 2 weeks more than I got. As far as how far back it goes, I'm a child of the 70s, made 1970. And so I remember as a little girl having that little easy bake oven, that little, I think it had like the little cake mix. You couldn't tell me I wasn't, just the chef. And then growing up, my mom is a cook. Her mother, my grandmother, Louise, was a school cook, cooked for her, 9 children. So I have just fond memories going back to being with her in her kitchen or her visiting us in New York, because she lived in Alabama. I'm born and raised in New York. So whenever we would get together, though, believe me, there was some kitchen time. And so I've just always had these fond memories. She would send me her signature dessert was, to me, her signature dessert was this simple cake called, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but it basically was a sweetbread. That was it. It's called sweetbread. It was just a plain sheet cake, the plain yellow cake, no icing or anything, but she made it from scratch. I could still smell the vanilla, fresh out the oven. And so when I couldn't be in her presence, she would send it to me in New York. And so that just was just a care package of love as far as I'm concerned. And so it really has infused what I do, spreading the love or my concern for people with healthy food and with ways to empower them to make the better choices when they're filling that plate.
So obviously, we're kind of, especially depending on when you listen to this, we're still really, unfortunately, knee deep in this pandemic. And, as a physician, as one who's kind of, been focused on nutrition, I'm pretty sure you've seen kind of, I don't want to say a backslide, right? But you've seen, a lot of people really not being able to be as efficient when it comes to eating, as efficient when it comes to nutrition, because of all of the factors, right? Like what would you say are some of the kind of the biggest, right, reasons why, the terms like pandemic pounds have really kind of taken off?
I think that is first of all, an excellent question that I think a lot of people want to know the answer to. And I'll start by saying it's multifactorial, just like so many things that we see in medicine, right? It's not just one thing. I think a large part of it is just mental fatigue. People, we're tired. We're just like, it's almost like, we thought the end was in sight. And then, no, that was instead of, a light at the end of the tunnel, it was a train, right? And so there's fatigue, but also too, people, food is comfort. There's a term called comfort foods for a reason. People often seek comfort in food. And, during the pandemic, when the supply chain was interrupted, it was difficult to get certain foods that you may, normally be able to get. That I'm sure could cause some anxiety and maybe even, a little bit of hoarding or overeating. And then just being kind of just the unknown. I think it's just, there was, of course, we all remember when there was a mad rush on toilet paper and Clorox and all that.
Yes.
And so, because we just didn't know, there was so much unknown and uncertainty. And so in those situations, people tend to, we want to, it's our nature to control what we can control. And so if that's what you put on your plate, what you buy in the store, so, as much as you can, then I think, some of that may be reflected in that. But, it's funny that you asked that, because I actually, for preparation for tonight's talk, I actually did a little bit of research, and I came across this really cool survey that that was done by the International Food Information Council. They're kind of a think tank out of Washington, D.C. And so they basically looked at people's behaviors kind of pre and post pandemic, or should I say last year to this year. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share some of the very interesting statistics.
This is your world. I'm just here.
Yeah, because I really wonder how much of this will resonate with your listeners and viewers. So they did a survey, and it showed that in 2020, 85% of people did report a change to their eating and food preparation due to COVID. So nothing really earth-shattering there. Interestingly, that number had dipped a little bit, though, this year. We're just over halfway into 2021. This year, that number has dipped a little bit to 72%. And I think that is probably due to the availability of vaccines. People are getting out more. So that was interesting. But when they broke it down as far as the overall reasons for why people buy the foods that they do, it was interesting, because those things really didn't change much. Number one, of course, was taste. We want food that tastes good. That was 82%, followed by price, which, as we all know, if you've been to the grocery store lately, things are not what they used to be.
Things are getting expensive. I was looking at some fruit. I was looking at some fruit the other day. I was like, hold on, I used to be able to get a pack of strawberries for like a couple of bucks. And like, it was like close to $3.50. I said, whoa.
Oh my, It is ridiculous because of the interruptions in the food supply, the food chains and so, or the supply chains. So that definitely was a factor. About 58% of people were concerned about the healthy aspect of their meals or their foods. And then another 52% was convenience was a big factor. So kind of stuff that you would think about.
Definitely.
Interestingly, only about a third of people were concerned as far as environmental sustainability. So hopefully that number will continue to improve as people do move more toward veganism and vegetarian choices. But then to kind of speak to the comfort food aspect that I mentioned earlier, the survey found that 68% of the time being familiar with the foods that they were choosing was really important. And again, a lot of it due to just the uncertainty and the anxiety that this pandemic has created in people. And if I get to your one more statistic, I really found it was interesting. Well, two more statistics.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. No rush.
They said that 1/3 of Americans actually reported snacking more last spring than they did this year. So it went down from 1/3 to 18%. Okay. So, that's good, because if we're trying to shed those pounds and people are becoming again, maybe
you got snack a little less.
And they're snacking less, exactly. And then another thing I thought was interesting, because this is kind of near and dear to my heart, is the behaviors around reading labels. They said that only about 52% of us are reading, only about 50% of people are reading their labels. So that means, the other 50 are not. But it's interesting where you get your food, because if you actually are buying your food in the store, you're more likely to read the label. And I know that's true for me. You catch me in the store, I'm peering, looking at those labels,
flip it
exactly,
over.
to see what's in there. Those hidden, food bombs, I call them. You want to look out for those. And you can even do that online as well. But it's it's easier when you have it in hand. But when they looked at who was likely to be doing that, 60% of people who were considered in excellent or very good health were the ones who tended to read the labels. And that, of course, can kind of correlate with they're in good health, because, they are maybe a little, more cognizant or cautious about what they're eating. Exactly. So, yeah, I just thought those were some very interesting statistics about kind of how COVID has shaped things. So about 25% of people said they were eating more plant-based protein sources. So there were some changes in as far as what people were eating as well. But all in all, some interesting statistics on our food consumption.
So Dr. Monique, when we talk about just, behavioral changes, which I think is the center pinnacle, right? When anytime you want to make a change, right? Like mentally, and there's actions that have to occur for you to make that change. And I think none is bigger than the aspect of eating. And obviously you would know. So when you're talking, to the people you're working with and the people you're trying to educate, like, what are some of those, biggest kind of hurdles and obstacles that you have to help people get over before they can start doing things like, because I know you kind of mentioned in that survey, they're preparing a little bit less. So obviously meal planning, and even when they meal plan, when they go to get certain foods, making sure they get the right foods and making sure, it's still within their cost and all of these other factors. But like, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you've had to help people kind of get over, like before you can even, I guess, push down that hill?
Exactly. I'll say number one, just like anything else that you want to be successful at, is mindset. I think tackling that is really key, because again, food serves so many more purposes than just nutrition for a lot of people. It's a way to come together for families. It's a way to, maintain a tradition. It's a way to comfort, to seek, to bring back memories of happier times. So you have to have a mindset that you can be successful, that yes, we all, if you survive 2020, first of all, cut yourself some slack, give yourself some grace, right?
100%.
If you made it through on the other side, because, over 600,000 Americans were not as fortunate. So number one, you need to cut yourself some slack. And then, kind of pick yourself up and dust yourself off. kind of sit down, really think about what your triggers are, what your motivators are. Are you eating because you're sad? Are you eating because you're bored? Are you eating because you're happy? Are you eating because of, kind of make, jot notes, keep a simple food diary. It doesn't have to be anything fancy.
The reason
But
why I'm
really,
laughing is because I feel like you went through every spectrum of emotion that people still can attach. Like, so it's not even like, oh, they're sad and they're eating. Like, oh no, you can be happy too and eating, and you could be lonely, or you could be like with the group. It's like it's so funny. Like, there's almost not one thing that can prevent you from, associating food and eating, which is I think it's pretty funny. And
oh,
then,
if I eat something, I don't break out dancing. I mean, I do my little happy dance because something tastes so good. So, it doesn't just have to be a negative thing. Food is, it's good. I mean, it's nutritional.
Yeah.
It's nourishment. Well, you hope it's nutritional. You can have food that's not nutritional,
Yeah, sure.
but yeah. So don't want to go too much into that. But yeah. So I definitely think mindset. So being purposeful. And I in my first book, meal planning, meal masters, I talk about, there's a chapter on mindset in that book, and I use the analogy of, we make time for what's important, and I'm gonna say this slow because I want people to hear me. We make time for what's important versus finding time. So whether that's exercise,
I
whether
like
it's
that.
meal planning,
That will be a quote. That will be a quote, y'all.
and here's
Expect
an
to see that clip
example.
somewhere.
They feel free. Here's an example. Say, for example, you're walking down the street and you look down and you find $100 bill. You said, look down, there it is. You didn't know you were going to get that $100 that day. You just happened to look down, there it was. Versus, I need to go to the bank to get this $100. So what do you have to do? You have to make time to go to the ATM, to go to the bank. It's that second one involves purpose. It involves intention. It involves planning. Maybe not a lot, but you still have to, figure that in, factor that into your day. Same thing with meal planning or exercise.
I was gonna say, I see you leaning us right into like, well, you're gonna be intentional. You gotta be intentional with,
you've
because you're
got
gonna
to be
eat every
intentional.
day we eat. Like tomorrow, I know I'm gonna eat. The next day, I know I'm gonna eat. If I know I'm gonna eat, and next week, like, why am I not trying to plan for something I already know I'm gonna? So all right, I love. Let's go. Let's
it's
go.
no surprise, right? It's no surprise that you're gonna be hungry, at a certain time of day. Like, it's kind of like clockwork. But the thing is, you want to, be purposeful about it so that you're not, get hangry, right? Those twins, hunger plus anger and hangry, not a good combination. Because then what happens? You just want to tear down the kitchen, or stopping at the corner junk food store, fast food restaurant. So, you want to kind of be ahead of that because, as we this, our brain is at the top of our bodies for a reason, right? Everything kind of flows from that. So yes, I think to answer your question, I mean, I really think it's because the biggest thing is mindset. And I also think part of it is just misinformation. I know you're doing a podcast later, and I can't wait about COVID misinformation, but there's just a lot of misinformation about a lot of stuff. Let's just put this out there. The
It's so
internet can be
much.
good, but it can be, when it's bad, when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. And so there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of cultural barriers. And so, people may think, oh, I can't go vegan because that's for other people, or it's too expensive, or and so I think addressing
Stuff that
some of
they
those,
just heard, they never even experienced it, but they've heard it, and
they
that's enough for
heard
them
it.
to say,
Exactly. And so addressing some of those cultural or not even cultural, but just, just misconceptions or ignorance. And I say ignorance is not in a derogatory way. Ignorance just means you don't know, right? We all are ignorant about something, right? I don't know how to fly a rocket, right? So I'm ignorant when it comes to that. So, I'm not saying ignorant to be derogatory, but I'm saying that when you want to, first of all, know your source. I have my son is starting his senior year next week in high school, and he'll come and tell me he saw something. I said, where did you get that from? What is your source? Don't come to me telling me you heard or saw some nonsense. Check your source. Verify.
Please. It's so rampant, especially in the industry that you're in, of the amount of misconceptions associated with eating well, eating healthy, eating still within your budget, eating with purpose, eating with plan. There's so many misconceptions that, again, I obviously don't envy your job, right? Because like you have to break down so many different barriers for someone to say, like, you know what, Dr. Monique is right. Like, let me stop playing games right here. Like let me take off whatever blinder I had in front of me and really kind of make this choice to kind of go in this direction and be nutritious and, you know, eat with like the actual purpose that I need to eat with. So like I said, I don't envy your field, because again, obviously you already know how medicine is, but I mean nutrition in and of itself. Again, I'm talking about it from the perspective of a physician, and I got just as many blinders when it comes to, you know, nutrition, adequate nutrition, what to eat, when to eat, how to, like, I got just as many. So I can only imagine, you know, for those who may not have the doctoral degree or whatever, you know, all the stuff that they kind of face trying to, you know, be their best self.
Well, you know, it can be challenging, but I think it's like that diabetic patient who you finally get that A1C down, or the hypertensive, you finally get them to go. It's, you know, you when you meet people where they are, and when you get them to, when you see them have that aha moment, it is a really good feeling. I'll just put it like that. So yes, there may be some bumps in the road, but I think when you meet people where they are, you find out what's important to them. Then why do you want to do this? You know, what is, yeah, I'm sure you've heard you need to eat, you know, right, and exercise, but what is going to make you take ownership of it? What is going to really say, yeah, you know, I need to do this because of XYZ. You know, I want my knees to stop hurting. I want to be able to walk up the stairs and not be out of breath, you know, things like that. But it's hard because, you know, we are bombarded with all kinds of stuff. My most, can I take a moment to tell you what my least favorite
Yes.
commercial is right now on TV?
All right.
Every time I see this commercial, it makes me cringe because it's sending the wrong message in so many ways. I think it's a macaroni and cheese commercial. And it's a little girl being literally chased through the house by her mother with a fork of macaroni and cheese. And the little girl is like, no, I don't want any more. And the mother's like, you're going to eat this. And they're running through the house. And then it's, you know, the scene cuts to this brand of macaroni and cheese. And it's, you know, everyone is happy and loving. And so what have we learned from this commercial? Number one, we're teaching our children that, you know, it's satiety. We just blow right past that, right? The little girl has told you that she's not hungry. Why are you chasing her around with the food? So, you know, and what kind of food? You're giving us some processed crap out of a box. So it's just, that commercial just rubs me wrong for so many reasons. But if I may say one more thing about cultural, because, you know, being African American, my folks are from the South. I'm born and raised in New York, but my people are from Alabama on both sides. And this is not just cultural. When you love someone, when you're concerned about someone, what do? You show them that love through cooking. I know when I cook for my family, my friends, this is an expression of my love and my concern for them. So you want them to eat, you want them to leave your table satisfied and full.
Yes.
But sometimes in our community, we go past full.
Oh yes.
We don't, you know, our brain, you know, if we scarf everything down, studies have shown if you just eat slowly and wait about 20 minutes, let those chemicals, let those the regulators, the pathways between your brain and your stomach, let them communicate, and let the stomach send the signal up to your brain to say, hey, look, you're full, you're good, pump the brakes. The other thing too is your hydration status. I'm sitting here, I'm working on my water,
Yes.
because one thing I tell people all the time is hydrate, especially now it's summertime. If you're working outdoors, you're exercising, you definitely want to do more than what you would do during cooler months. But we often mistake thirst for hunger. And so what happens is we, you know, we're hungry.
Yes.
What do? We reach for something to eat, when really that's your body first starting to signal to you that you need to drink. And so by the time you actually are cognizant that you are thirsty, you're actually a little bit dehydrated, probably about 10% dehydrated. So my advice to people, you know, going out to restaurants, or even, you know, when you eat it at home, drink water first. Have an 8-ounce glass of water first, So that way, by the time you get to the restaurant, those baroreceptors and all the, synapses are firing. So your brain is for some reason, there's a little bit of a delay. So you want to, I'm sure there's some evolutionary reason for that, but you want to give that pathway time to really fire, really connect and say, okay, look, I'm not as hungry as I thought I was. Let me not order everything on the menu. So those are just little ways. And, I tell people, think of when you're drinking, when you're taking sips of water, think of, you're getting little diet pills, side effect free diet pills, because the more you fill up with water, the less you'll want to take in solid calories or other liquid calories. Everything has a cost. Everything has a calorie cost, pretty much, except for water. So that's just a way to kind of put some good points on the board for yourself versus, the harmful ones.
Ooh, I love it. So when you talk about, especially from a nutritional standpoint, and people say, okay, yes, Dr. Monique, yes, I feel better, right? Maybe I eat when I'm closer knit, and obviously with this pandemic, a lot of families couldn't be close knit, right? So they had to be alone. So sometimes, again, just the act of eating, being together makes me more happier. What are some other benefits with just like eating well that you've been able to kind of expound upon the people you work with?
Sure. And that's a great point you make about studies have shown that kids, if you eat more, the more meals that you eat as a family, you see children do better academically, they do better self-esteem wise, they have few less problems with depression. And in fact, actually, this study that I was referring to, there's actually a point that they made about eating meals together. And I thought it was very interesting. If they found that fruit and vegetable consumption actually increases with the frequency of family meals. So the more meals that these participants ate as a family, the more healthy they ate. And I thought that was really wonderful. They didn't go into detail about why that was, but I would just imagine that the mother, the father, the parent is at the table saying, "Eat your vegetables."
Like sometimes I work on the opposite. Like you're like, oh, you're not leaving here until you eat all that food.
Right. We all remember that, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think from the pandemic standpoint, as far as what eating healthily does, I mean, number one, boosting that immune system, right? I did way back last year. It seems like dog years, like it was been so long ago, but it was just kind of at the beginning of COVID. I actually did a blog about foods that boost your immune system. And it's really common sense stuff. I mean, it literally, if you eat your colors, that's my hashtag on Instagram is hashtag eat your colors.
Okay.
Your fruits and vegetables, all those colors are actually beneficial. Yes, they're gorgeous, right? And that draws you in because we eat with our eyes first. But those phytochemicals, those phytonutrients, those healthy plant chemicals are antioxidants. They are anti-inflammatories. So they boost your immune system. They decrease your risk for heart disease, chronic heart disease, diabetes, chronic inflammation in your joints throughout your body. I mean, we know this, red peppers, the color red, those red peppers, those orange peppers, anything colored orange, beta carotene, right? All that stuff is got just throughout the body. It helps with your eyes. It helps with boost your immune system. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. All that good stuff. Turmeric. One of my favorite things to cook with. One of my favorite spices to cook with is turmeric. It's very mild, but it has it's actually what gives mustard its yellow color. So there's some trivia for you guys. So if you're wondering why mustard is yellow, it's because of turmeric. And turmeric turns things yellow. So I use it in, I have when I make scrambled tofu, so to make it look like scrambled eggs, I sprinkle in some turmeric. Turmeric has, much like ginger, turmeric has anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial product. I mean, like, You can't get better than that. So if you're looking to boost your immune system, which we all can use, definitely, vaccine and unvaccinated, look in your spice cabinet, and if you can get fresh, even better. But if you can't, I mean, these are some things that will definitely help. Of course, citrus, your lemons, your limes, all that stuff, vitamin C, all of it is beneficial. So, I encourage people at least once a week, go to the produce aisle, pick something that you may not have ever used before, and Google it and go home and see what comes up.
Do some magic with it.
Do some magic with it. I'm in culinary school right now, and I'm in a plant-based culinary school, and we had class last night, and she was talking about the different types of the greens that you can, lettuces and greens that you can use for salad. And I typed in the chat, as we're virtual. I said, "Oh my God, you're making me want to run to the grocery store right now," because just the idea of getting these lettuces and these greens that I have not personally used and put them in a salad is just exciting to me.
I love it.
So I encourage people to try it out. I'm hashtag Dr. Food Nerd. So like I said, you're gonna have to get the Apollo Sandman hook, because once I get going.
It's interesting, and then you kind of stepped over it, but like I'm trying to go back, like a culinary school. Like let's like how did Dr. Monique find herself in culinary school? Because I'm like, I know you love food, but like that, I think that's, again, and that's what we talk about here in the Legendary community. We talk about levels, right? Like, yeah, you can like food, but like if you really like going to school for it, like that's a whole nother, like now I'm sitting back like, okay, wow, okay, so yeah, this is not for play here.
It's not for play. It is not. Again, it's the universe. I so believe in when you put stuff out there, it's going to come back to you. And so one of my sorors, a dear friend of mine, she is actually a caterer. Her side hustle, if you ask everybody's got a side hustle, side gig, right? So she works in corporate America, but her side hustle is she's a caterer. And she herself recently decided to only offer vegan and vegetarian dishes in her business, because she has recently adopted such a diet, and she's dropped, I think now, like 40 pounds. Her cholesterol has gone down. She doesn't need blood pressure medicine. I mean, she is like the poster child for lifestyle changes, right? That we talk about with our patients. So that really encouraged her to really now put that into her business. And so she's the one that told me, well, actually, she posted on Facebook that she had signed up for this vegan, plant-based cooking culinary school. And I was like, what? And so, I reached out to her, and she gave me the link to sign up, and I joined. And so this is actually the first class. The school is Escoffier, Auguste, it's French, Escoffier. And that school has been in existence for quite some time, but this is actually the first plant-based class. So I'm super excited to be part of it. And it's really just going to help me bring good content to my followers. I already have I'm already working on my second volume of my cookbook based on stuff that I'm learning now.
I'm
excited.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. So let's talk about the cookbook, right? Let's talk about, one, why a cookbook, right? It's probably obviously sounds obvious now, but why a cookbook? Why you felt, you know what, I know my community needs me, and what better way to help assist my community by giving this product here? Why a cookbook? What are some, and obviously what are your favorite things you like out of the cookbook, and what should people expect out of the next one?
Certainly. So again, it's that universe thing I keep talking about. But when your customers tell you, our coach tells you, right? But they tell you what they need from you, what they want from you. So people kept asking me, when is the cookbook coming out? Because they thought the first book was a cookbook, and I said, well, no, the Meal Masters book is really a how-to kind of self-help kind of setup for the cookbook. This is going to be a series of many to come. Right. So the cookbook for me, and it kind of evolved as I was writing it, because it went from just, here's a recipe, here's some pictures of the food, enjoy, to I started doing this blog series called Veganish. It's on my website at drmoniquemay.com. And I call it Vegan-ish because, it's my journey toward a more plant-based
Nice.
a more plant-based diet. And I don't like to say word diet, diet with a small d. To me,
Sure.
there's
Yes.
big D and little d, right? So like the Mediterranean diet versus, which is the capital D versus, I'm going on a diet, which to me is the bad word, because, you can't do a diet forever, right? It really needs to be lifestyle changes. It needs to be sustainable and, things that you can do for the next 40 years.
Spin it around. It makes
So versus, 10 weeks or whatever to get into the dress for your high school reunion. So when I say diet, I'm referring to more of, I'm referring more to, things that are going to be sustainable. So I did this blog series, and it's the ABCs, Dr. Monique's ABCs, because I wanted to highlight, and I found 26 things that I've been using on my vegan journey. And I say vegan-ish because I'm not 100%, but I more often than not eat much more plant-based. Because I've never really been a big red meat eater, but I still enjoy. I eat chicken from time to time. I eat some fish, and I like honey. So honey, for those who don't know, honey is is not vegan because it's made from bees.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some things I'm not quite willing to give up. So I just started chronicling in this blog series. And so each letter was, so A was avocado. I love avocados.
Yeah.
I have a
Shout
t-shirt.
out avocado. Shout out to avocado.
Avocados. I mean, they're, you get fiber, you get omega-3s, you get the good fat, everything. So I just went through the alphabet. And so as I'm looking at this, I was like, this is great. So when I posted it on my website, I would post the website. I would post the recipe featuring that item. So
Nice.
I think for avocado, I posted my avocado waffle recipe. So that is a completely vegan recipe. It is, there's no egg, there's no, milk, there's no cow's milk in it. So no regular, I use all plant based foods to make the avocado waffles, and they're delicious. So each blog had a recipe so people could see what I was creating. So I was like, well, I've got 26 recipes right here. And sometimes even more. So depending on what I was talking about, there's 2 or 3 recipes in a blog. So that content is in the book. And then also just kind of, I have several chapters in there kind of, okay, well, you want to go vegan. Well, what do you need to know about it? So I talk about how do you replace eggs in a vegan diet? How do you replace milk? How do you replace butter? And for me,
given the game, I love that.
And I talk about everything because I'm, like I said, I'm hashtag Dr. Food Nerd. So a lot of it is my trial and error. Like aquafaba. Like this time last year, I did not know what aquafaba was. Now I am absolutely.
I'll be honest. I'm sitting here right now, 2021. I don't know what
aquafaba is. It's bean juice. And so if you get a can of beans, and all these years, what do? I open up that can of beans and rinse them off and pour that juice down the sink. Someone, yes, and I don't know who figured this out. Aquafaba is a great egg replacement, more so for egg white, so it's great as a binder. So I use it in some of my baked goods, some of my desserts. So yeah, just stuff like that. So I talk about those things.
It's so interesting as you say that, like, and I don't know if this is a culture thing, because I'm in South Florida, and we have this restaurant called Pollo Tropical. And one of the things I order when I order, like, I'll get rice, but I'll say, oh, I want the bean juice, right? Because they'll just load you up with the beans. And I'm like, I don't want, and I'm Haitian. So most of our meals usually has like rice, the bean juice, which is crazy because you say you dump it out. I'm like, oh my God, you dump it out, what are you doing? Like, milk has like the bean juice and then whatever protein, meat, chicken, or whatever that is. Like, we don't even really eat like the actual beans. Like, some people were like, it's not a staple, but like in different cultures where like the main thing is like all of the beans that they're eating. So like so I can imagine just the different cultural aspects of just kind of navigating, taking this away, eat this, don't eat. Like, it just popped in my head right when you said you dumped all the bean juice, because I'm like, oh my God, how are you eating? Like,
well, it's so funny. I have hypertension, and I'm very transparent about that. So I'm very careful about the sodium that I eat, in my intake. And, we know canned vegetables can be loaded with salt. And so I typically will, if I'm using canned beans, I rinse them off. But because I want to reduce the sodium content. But yeah, I use that aquafaba because I'm not using very much, maybe 3 tablespoons, depending. The ratio is roughly 3 tablespoons of aquafaba equals 1 egg, roughly. So, just things like that. And so I also, in the book, I'm a self-avowed kitchen gadget junkie. So I have a chapter where I tell people, I break down kind of some of the gadgets, what are my go-tos, what I recommend. I talk about your kitchen appliances. I mean, it's really a good kind of starter book. I think I wrote it with people in mind. It's something I think in there for everyone. If you're new and just getting started, all the way to those who are experienced, because you can always learn something new.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So before I let you go, right? First of all, I'm just like I say, I'm still taking it back that you dump all the juice out, but like I'm recovering. But I
Don't
just
hold it against me.
yeah.
Remember, I told you earlier we all are ignorant about some things. There, I was ignorant about beet juice.
As we we're still in the pandemic, still kind of, we're at least what the survey is kind of mentioning this year, we seem to be kind of going in the right direction. We're snacking a little bit less. Hopefully we're starting preparing a little bit more. Before we let you go, what are some parting shots, right, for the lunch and learn community to say, like, hey, like this is your time, get it together. These are a couple of things that you should definitely, like, if you can only choose one or two, these are definitely things you should do, right, to get to make sure 2022 is much better, if 2020 and 21 wasn't good for you.
I would say, number one, I'm going to go back and say, it may sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say, get your mind right. Yes. Definitely get your mind right, kind of address. And it's hard to make those changes. It's hard to kind of look inside and do that work sometimes, but really have an honest conversation with yourself about what role food really plays in your life. And when you I think when you crack that nut, no pun intended, but when you really do that part, I think things will start to fall into place, and it'll really make sense. Because, what's the definition of insanity? You keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. So until you get help and kind of get unstuck with that, don't expect to get different results. So, and whether that means you need, help from someone else, there's all kinds of apps and things out now. There's nothing wrong with that. We all need help. We all need coaches. Coaches need coaches, right? So please don't I would say, get out of your own way. If that's what your issue is, don't let pride or ego or any of that stuff get in your way to help you get to that next step. And then I would say probably go to your grocery store, and the one thing that I found interesting was, and in one of my blogs, I talked about, with the pandemic kind of turning everything upside down, being the disruptor of all disruptors, was it changed the way we get our food, right? Yeah. So, we can only go to the grocery store certain times of the day. Older people had the, earlier shopping hours, or they said, don't touch stuff, like get what you're going to get, and, stop handling everything. So just kind of the basic.
Even those like the delivery apps, right? Where some people ain't even go to the grocery store no more. I
was just about to say, Instacart. I have jumped on the Instacart bandwagon. It's great because, really for me, it's a time saver. When you're doing, 50, 11 things, it's great to just be able to order your food and go to your front door and get it. But yeah, from that to, meal delivery, now they have them all kind, you can get vegan, you get all types of different meals. They even have, the ones where, the ugly foods, like foods that the produce that may not be as pretty, but there's nothing wrong with them. You can actually order that, and that cuts down on food waste and, helps with the environment as well. Farmers market, I have a local farmers market, a couple here actually not too far from me. So I like to go when I can, and just see what's in season. That's locally grown, because that food typically at the farmers market is going to be so much fresher, so much actually have more vitamins than the same thing you may get in the grocery store, because depending on where that food came from, how far that food had to travel. Because think about it, It's from the ground. It's a plant. And so just like, if you have beautiful roses on your counter, they start to wilt and die after a while.
During time
So
frame, the clock is ticking. Second week,
the clock is ticking. So, and food in the grocery store, sometimes, it's not always local. We have stuff that's international. So, and in that process, nutrients are lost. And so I would just encourage your listeners to, explore farmers markets. And also don't forget your frozen aisle, your frozen foods, because those can actually have much more nutrition, again, depending on because a lot of depending on the processing, some of the farms can actually process the food very soon after it's harvested. So they seal in those antioxidants and those vitamins, and you're getting your bang for your nutritional buck, so to speak. And even canned foods, certain canned foods like tomatoes. Canned tomatoes are actually, if not healthier, just as healthy as fresh tomatoes. They have higher levels of lycopene, which is an antioxidant, which helps to decrease risk for prostate cancer and heart disease. So being open and explore, as I said before, go to your produce aisle, pick something that you may have never, used before. I tried this with the a star fruit, and because it looks like a star when you cut it, the slices look like stars. Just try it out. You just never know. Pomelo, I discovered pomelo that way. Pomelo is basically it looks like a huge grapefruit. So it's in the citrus family, but it's a little sweeter than grapefruit. Huge load of vitamin C and fiber. Plus it's just juicy and delicious. So you never know, you may just be one grocery stop or grocery visit away from your next favorite food. So don't be afraid to explore.
I like that. Oh, that's a good ending. So before we let you go, when is this book coming out, right? So when can we purchase this book, right? We need to know. Where can people follow, find, read, watch? Like let's dump it all out here, right? Like how can we get in touch with you? Where can we? When is this book coming? Or give us all those details so we can
definitely
prepare for that.
So the book will be out, I'm hoping, before the end of the year. It is at the publishers as we speak. And so I hope to have that in your hot little hands for Christmas. If not for Christmas, definitely in time for New Year, kind of new year. I think it'll, blend. It'll go very nicely with that. So, but then until then, though, please, be sure to follow me on all social media at Physician in the Kitchen, and also at Dr. Monique May. That's DrMoniqueMay. I'm also, my website is www.drmoniquemay.com. And my current book, Meal Masters, you can actually pick up at mealmastersbook.com.
Let's go again, Dr. Monique. Thank you for again blessing us, educating us, getting this right. You gave us a little heart attack with the dumping of the bean juice, but you reeled it right back in, right? With getting this to the grocery store. Again, I'm probably amped to just go to the grocery store myself just to pick out a new thing. And I'm notorious. I'll be honest. I'm notorious for all right, this is what I always eat. Boom, 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 boom. We out of here. And obviously, being able to, again, take some blinders off, say all right, let me explore the palette as I need to, is definitely going to help. So I'm definitely going to make sure we take what you say today for action, right? Because that's always the goal. We're not just talking here, Lunch and Learn community. We listen and then we take action, right, to make sure we see changes.
There you go. That's all you can do. That's as long as you are above ground. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.